Now, during your senior season, many schools started contacting you about scholarship offers. So, what was that like to go through the recruiting process?
You gotta think it's weird, but we didn't have a phone. So I was getting recruited, and my Uncle Ernest lived right up above us, up the hill down there on Graveyard Hills, what they called it when I was a kid. It's actually Donaldson Road. So at night, he would whistle, and he'd say, "That boy's got a phone call." And my mom and dad would be like, "Well, you got a phone call, you gotta go get it." So after about 12 times of doing that, people calling, my mom looks at my dad and says, "You're gonna have to get us a phone." So we got a telephone because I was being recruited, which was, a big thing for us back then. And then the first time you ever fly on a plane was on a recruiting trip. So you're sitting there and already you're doing things, and it's like, well, dang, I never thought I'd be doing that, And people's like, well, where'd you fly to? You flew to Memphis, you back to Mississippi, schools through the South. And I would tell people, I would say, well, dang, after my first year of starting, I said my first official letter came from TSU. And I said, I guess I wasn't on the map for no one. Then I became a junior, and then bigger schools started sending out letters and stuff. And then when I was a senior, Coach Fulmer and Coach Cluckiff was down in Loudon, quite a bit. Okay. And, I pretty much made up my mind, like, hey, I'm UT bound, you grew up listening to them on the radio, on the tractor while you was working in tobacco, the tearaway jerseys, the everything, was just wow. And so, that was probably the biggest thing as my senior year, just being recruited by all them schools. The funny thing is after I committed to go to UT, Coach Ratledge gave me a box that had a bunch of school stuff in it, and he said, I've had 2 exceptional players leave here and go to Clemson. And he was like, I wanted one to go to UT.
Really?
Yeah, and then we sat there and we kind of laughed about it, but that there was a box of letters from other schools that, he was like, hey, I was just holding these back because I was kind of wanting you to go
I didn't know that.
To UT, yeah. So,
what were some of the schools? Who were some of the schools?
There was Georgia, there was Pittsburgh, there was,
So they're all around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why did you choose UT? What were you looking for in a school?
I'd never been away from home.
Yeah.
So UT, I thought, was further enough away, but close enough if I had to get home.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that year we played Alcoa my junior year, and Todd Upton was over there, and I dislocated my elbow in that game. And somebody was recruiting from Southern Cal, University of Southern Cal. So they called, and it was like, take a trip, go way out there, whatever. But you kind of think like, wow, it's just ironic that they recruited me.
Yeah.
And then I end up going out there. I later on playing for the Raiders, but at that time, to be that far away from home, and it's kind of like, well, you'll come home once or twice per year. And it was like, oh no, me, because I was, my first year at UT, I was probably home every weekend. I could be home for the first 6 months before it started spacing out as to where I wasn't coming home as much.
And now it's almost impossible to go home even if you live that close to the way that their schedules are.
Yeah.
What are your memories of Coach Majors?
Coach Majors, I remember perfectionists. If you look good, you play good. Dress classy. The fundamentals of football, the game maximums, which came from General Neyland. The fact, just the basics of football. The team making the fewest mistakes will win. That's each individual battle within the game. The person making the fewest mistakes will win. I remember the emphasis on the kicking game, field position, things that are set up basic, backed up, coming out of the end zone, the attention to detail you got to put on that. If you get the ball backed up, you got to get 2 first downs. In the red zone, going in the red zone, score. I remember us having an audible system with Walt Harris where we checked to a better play, whatever. Ironically, when I first went to the Raiders, they didn't have an audible system.
Really?
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, and I'm sitting there looking at, and I'm down in my stance, and there's an unblocked guy over here, and I'm sitting there saying, opposite, opposite, opposite. What the hell? And then, the offensive coordinator comes and jumps on me, and then I remember Art Shell taking up for me. And I remember 2 weeks later, we had an audible system in.
Really?
But I was sitting there like, yeah, wait a minute. There's one man that ain't got a hat. And Football 101 has taught us run away from the guy that don't have a hat for. Yeah, the furthest man away from the hole is the one that's unblocked. So yeah. So those fundamentals of football were there. Everybody go get ready to play in your own way. If it's listening to music with your headphones on, whatever, just get your focus on so you're ready not to make mistakes. And that was it. He was hard. He wanted things done a certain way, and if you didn't do them a certain way, he'd be on the megaphone from the tower yelling and screaming and to get it right. And I remember him always wanting guys working for him that wanted to be head coaches or coordinators. He always wanted.
He didn't have a lot of those changes.
He always wanted guys working for him that were striving. Charles Barkley said it pretty good, but Coach Majors was the first guy that I ever heard say that. You may be smarter than me, but I can fire your ass. And that's what he wanted working for him, was guys that were smarter than he was. And I think that showed the confidence in his ability to lead men.
Okay, I hadn't thought about that. I guess Coach Fulmer you were probably closest with since he was your
since
line
he was
coach.
my position coach. Yeah.
So tell me about Coach Fulmer. What are your memories about him?
Coach Fulmer was going to push you to be the best you could be. He was going to push you to be a technician, and I think Bobby Knight said it best back in that day. I don't know how true it is now, but competitive people responded to criticism, and I think constructive criticism was great. And Coach Fulmer was honest, and it was all about body angles and steps and body position, hand placement. All of those things were an edge that I thought he taught all of us offensive linemen. But he also taught us toughness and to work hard and how to keep your focus. I think he came up with an ingenious thing because he started grading us. So we all got a grade. And you had to be higher than a 70 to grade out as a winner, but you tried to grade out 100 if you were competitive. And on the grading system, it was a plus if you got your assignment right. If you got your assignment right, you got a plus. But if you got your assignment right and dominated the guy in front of you, you got a double plus. So as a group, who's going to have the best grade? So you've got 12 guys on an offensive line group, or in college, maybe a little more than that, because you may have a first team, second team, third team. But you had competition amongst the group of who's grading out the best this week. Okay. So, you know, that carried on right there. That just made you work a little harder amongst each other. I remember the punishments, the dang hit it's and get it's. Which, you know, me and David Douglas came back one time and we were watching practice and the guy screw up or something. He was like, wait a minute. And he looks at us and says, well, I can't do that. Somebody may hurt his shoulder. And I was like, somebody? I said, we wouldn't hurt his shoulder. Yeah, you know, that's, you know. But as you evolve in a football coach or as a person, you get better at doing things. So, you know, I mean, I look back on it. We had fun. I mean, I tell people he helped me make a lot of money. Yeah.
The most successful season while you were there was probably the 85 year, where y'all won the SEC. I'm going to mention 2 games to you, and you pick one to talk about. One was when you all faced Auburn when they were ranked number 1 with Bo Jackson, who came to town. Y'all won that one 38-20. And then the other big one was the SEC, after you won the SEC championship, you played Miami in the Sugar Bowl. So which one of those meant more to you?
I would probably say the Sugar Bowl. I mean, the Sugar Bowl was like, we were going down to New Orleans to take a butt whooping from the number 1 team in the nation.
It was Jimmy Johnson was coach.
Jimmy Johnson probably had 8 to 10 bona fide pro top 3 picks on that team. And they were just, you know, we didn't have a chance. We were just showing up for burial. And Coach Donahue devised a heck of a defensive game plan to take them out of what they did. And offensively, we was able to score some points on them. You know, we was able to take advantages of 2 or 3 weaknesses that they had on their defense, and the weaknesses weren't from a talent perspective, but it was from a habit perspective. Mm-hmm. So, you know, to be down there and the media tell you for so many weeks that you don't have a chance, there's no way you can win this game. You know, if you look at it, by that time we had backup quarterback
Darrell Dickey.
Mm-hmm. So everybody had to elevate their game. Mm-hmm. Offensive line had to elevate. Running backs had to elevate. Well, we had a backup running back in Jeff Powell. Wide receivers had to elevate. Defense knew going into the game that, offense is not hitting on all strokes, so we got to really elevate too. And I think it was just a good collaborative team effort. When you've got a championship team, everybody cares about everybody. Egos aside, if you got a good team, now you can have a good team and you can have, you've got good players, but you've got this little clique or that little clique or this little clique or that little clique. And you know, what they say is, well, you guys were like brothers when you played. 30 years later, still like brothers.
Is that right?
And that's the camaraderie that you've got to have to get to the championship plateau. You know, you can be good and never get there because you don't have that, I call it the gel or the jello or the cohesiveness that keeps everything together. And I've experienced that probably 3 times in my playing career. Okay. Yeah, and I experienced it at UT. I experienced it at the Super Bowl with a Green Bay Packer team that, you know, we're still to this day like brothers. And I experienced it with the Raiders, but that was the older group, but we never got over the hump to a championship.
Yeah. Were you playing guard or tackle?
In that game, I started off playing guard, and I started at right guard. Then I moved to right tackle. Then I moved to left tackle. So I played 3 positions in that game. So it was kind of like whoever was giving trouble, I'm going to go play in front of them. So, that was pretty much good. Yeah.
Which did you prefer, guard or tackle?
I prefer tackle. I mean, I was a natural tackle, but I mean, I was a natural tackle that had the ability to play guard. Yeah.
Now, Coach Blackburn, your line coach at the high school, his son David, was he at UT as manager at that time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, he was.
Oh, I've got one more. After your senior season, where you were all SEC, the NFL draft was coming up. Did you realize of all the thousands of players who ever played at Loudon High School, you're the only one to ever play in the NFL?
No, I wouldn't have realized that.
Yeah.